It's not a day we can circle on our calendar and say, well, on this day, my waiting will be over. No, we don't have a date, and we can't time our progress. But I've been learning some things about waiting that I want to share with you today, and I hope it helps your journey and makes of it the time that God has intended that it become. Because I'm learning that a waiting time pretty much means there's some way I'm supposed to grow during this time. Something in me, something about my process or rhythms or priorities, something. In fact, I'm beginning to understand that waiting is God's laboratory for his work to begin. He wants us there in the laboratory so that he can do the work without us running ahead of him, because that's what we know how to do. I don't want to waste any of this waiting time. I don't want to come through this time and say, oh, all this time I had and I didn't grow in this area or that way, or I didn't learn this skill or discipline. So I don't want to treat it as something unnecessary. In fact, I'm beginning to wonder if the very growth that leads me to my next step, and maybe yours too, happens while I wait, if I can focus on the right things during that waiting time. If waiting is God's laboratory where we can grow, then we need to be willing to put our expectations about this time, about how long it is, about what it is we need to be growing. We need to put all of our expectations under God's microscope. Then we can become a member of his one-on-one workshop where he does all the coaching and teaches us a new skill or a new discipline. I want to learn to wait without wasting. So what does it mean to waste this time? One thing I've learned about wasting a waiting time is that sometimes I ask the wrong questions. You know what some of those are? Asking, when will this time end? Asking what's going to happen in it. Asking, why is it happening? Now, we all ask those questions. There's nothing wrong with asking the questions, but they're not growth questions. There's no growth there. The growth comes in the questions that begin by asking, how do I do this? How do I accomplish what you are wanting me to accomplish? How do I become your servant? Feelings about this time can also lead us to an inertia that makes us think, well, we can't do anything we want to do, so maybe we just won't do much of anything. Now, that can't be true for you because you're here, you've shown up, you're doing the work, and that's a good thing. But be careful not to let feelings drive attitudes and perspectives. It's a killer in a waiting time. When I'm waiting for answers or for different times to evolve, I like to read from David in the Psalms. Did you know that David spent a good portion of his life waiting? Think of him as a shepherd boy out on those mountains. What did he have to do but look at sheep and wait until it was time to take them back home? Waiting. But during that time, he learned some fabulous lessons about his God, about the character of God, about his creator God and what he was able to create. Beautiful green hills, blue sky, fields of flowers. Maybe that's why he used the idea of waiting almost more than any other writer in the Bible. So here's my short list of what he has passed on to us in the Psalms. Psalm 5:3 says it this way: I lay my requests before you and wait in expectation. Waiting in expectation is different. David learned how to present his requests to God and then just wait for God to answer. It meant that he didn't run ahead of God. It meant that he didn't substitute his best logic or ideas for God's answers, even when it took longer than he wanted for God to answer. He waited, and he waited expecting there would be an answer, even if God changed his question. Another verse in Psalm 59:9 says it this way, "Oh, my strength, I watch for you." Now, at first, that might not seem like a waiting verse, but what is watching but another word for waiting? Waiting for something that you know is coming. David learned that God was his all strength, and that it was in his best wisdom to act in God's strength and not just his. Psalm 27:14 says this, "Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." This is actually repeated in several other Psalms. So David really learned this lesson and found the need to use it many times. David learned that waiting for God was in his best interest. That what he would receive from the waiting was a better answer than what he would have received if he rushed ahead of God. So he waited. He waited with all his heart. He waited with expectant hope. He waited, growing patience. Psalm 37:34 says, "Wait for the Lord and keep his way." In other words, David is telling us, wait for the Lord, but keep doing what God has already told you to do. Don't expect any new answer all of a sudden. Do what you know to do. Sometimes we think that it's in the big productive times that we have to make sure we're doing our obedience in the right way. But I think I'm learning that it's just as important, if not more important, to obey God carefully in the waiting times, because that's when I can get off center. So I'm asking, how are we handling this waiting time? Are we looking for growth in it? Are we looking for God in it? C.S. Lewis, the popular writer of Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, said this, "God whispers in our pleasures. He speaks to our conscience, but he shouts in our pain. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." So do we need a hearing test? Is God speaking loudly enough these days? Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I'm not trying to say that anything about this topsy-turvy part of coronavirus is from God. But I do believe he wants to use this time of waiting and change and reversals and not normal to bring something new into our heart, into our families, into our priorities, and especially into our job pursuits. A commitment to grow isn't automatic. Even when it results from a life upheaval, it takes focus. It takes listening, and it takes wanting to admit where our lives got so tangled and stressed because we leaned into the loudest voices and they were not always the most important ones. So I offer these questions to help you in your waiting time, which I would have put on the little cards at our table for discussion. You'll have to pick them up perhaps from the place where the workshop notes are listed. What rhythms have made it easier for you to be fully present for the people in your world during these days? And how can you keep them when life ramps up again? This is the time to make those plans, not after the job comes, not when normal, whatever normal is going to be, new normal, whatever that is. That's not the time to make a new plan. Make the plans now. Get the rhythms in now. Set the priorities now. This is the time to make good use of this waiting time. Another question: what have you enjoyed that you do need to retain? Or what about this question? What have you missed so deeply that you will commit to nurture it better when it returns? Again, make the plans now. Set the rhythms in motion now. This is not a time to slack off in any of those ways. My most important question to you is this: what is God saying to you through his megaphone? And are you listening? I learned a new way to talk about this waiting time this weekend when I listened to a podcast that was called Holy Disruption. I knew I was experiencing times of disruption, but I don't think I'd ever called it holy. But here's what I came to understand: that if God fills this time, it is holy waiting. It is a holy disruption. It is a holy time. And he wants us to find out more about him and the way he directs and the way he speaks and the way he loves. Don't let anything about this time keep you from growing. Because I've learned something about coming through some other hard times that I've experienced in my life. When I come through a hard time with some character developing lesson or some priority refining process or some new understanding about who God is, you know what I remember about that time? The lessons, the new growth. Not so much about the pain and the struggle that it took to bring them about. So I'm asking that God will use his megaphone for you today and in the days to come and keep you growing. I wish you much success in your job pursuits, and I cannot wait until we can be back together in person. Have a great rest of your day.